Restoration this past Sunday, we talked about suffering out of the book of Romans and just kind of explained how Paul is very clear that suffering is part of the life of a follower of Jesus, but then he gave us the four truths of hope. Along those same lines, right, I want to talk about fear and anxiety. Now, a lot of that comes out of the suffering and the trials that we're experiencing, but recent studies have shown that teenagers, even children, are beginning to experience stress and anxiety at earlier ages than ever before. In fact, most studies say between 7 and 11. The United States of America, for example, is the most anxious of all the countries in all the world. We spend the most money and we have the most diagnoses of stress-related diagnoses and medication to treat those diagnoses. Inside Restoration Community Church, I know that stress and anxiety runs rampant, right? It does in my home at times, it does in my own heart at times, and it certainly does in our church. But I want to give you some encouragement today. Philippians chapter 4, verse 6. Paul says, "Be anxious for nothing," which, as we said before, sounds like such an easy thing to say. "Be anxious for nothing, but in everything, by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving." So I want you to think about whatever it is right now that's causing you stress, anxiety, fear, or worry. And I want you to think about going to the Lord in prayer about that with thanksgiving. Let your requests be made known to God. We talked about that this past Sunday. But watch this, verse 7. As I'm praying, as I'm bringing these things before the Lord, as I'm asking him to get me out of the trouble, but what do you want me to get out of this trouble? As I'm bringing all these things before the Lord, listen, and the peace of God, which surpasses all comprehension, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. I want you to think about all the things, right? Maybe it's the fact that you have access to information and news all the time, and that causes you to worry. Maybe it's the fact that you are constantly comparing yourself to everything you see on social media, and that's causing you anxiety and worry. Maybe it goes much deeper and much more personal than that. But let me encourage you. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God, and all of the worries and all of the stresses will go away. No, the peace of God, which surpasses all comprehension, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Hopes that encourages you a little bit today, church. I guess the challenge would be to whatever it is, take it to the Lord today and understand you are talking to the perfect sovereign God of the universe. And if you're in Christ, he calls you son or he calls you daughter. Listen, Restoration, lots going on. We'll continue our study, the book of Romans, this Sunday. We'll finish chapter 8, and then starting the following week, we'll go into our Be a Man series right in time for Father's Day. Speaking of Father's Day, child dedication coming up. If that is something you and your family desire to do, there's more information below the video, but we'll have our next child dedication on Father's Day as well. Hey, keep student camp and keep sports camp in your prayers as those things are coming up in the next couple of weeks. And don't forget about baptism. Baptism coming up on Father's Day weekend as well at the beach. First beach baptism of the year. And then we'll have another one right here in the worship center at the end of July. Church, I love you. Until I see you on Sunday, be on mission.